there an earthquake in here?
It's gone!
What's wrong, Knuckles?
The legends say the Star Shard is supposed to be in this chalice. Did it roll off somewhere in the quake?
Hey, Tails, what's up with this painting?
The Divine Wings. Divine Wings? Yes, the legendary bird that the gods rode through the heavens. Knuckles, see if you can read this inscription.
The Divine Wings, straddler of stars, lose their plumes to the dark and fall to the ground. The plumes become as stars returning to this land. We, the children of Babylon...
Babylon?
What connection do they have with these stones?
We still don't know that. But could the stones those robots are after be the plumes written about here? The Divine Wings, straddler of stars. Could they be power units used to operate some starship?
So this Divine Wings thing is...
Right. Babylon Guardian.
Jet! Eggman!
Knuckles, what does the rest of the inscription say?
Huh? Oh, right. We, the children of Babylon, seal one star here and another within the Great Scar, formed in heaven's fall, until the time of the Divine Wings rising.
The Great Scar?
Wait, there's more. The Great Scar, lying in the east among earth stained red by the dawn's light.
Eggman and Jet were headed east. The Great Scar must be the crater formed when the meteorite struck ground. That must be where Eggman found the plume.
Which means the mother computer...
Is probably waiting there too.
All right, time to go catch up! Huh? Ha! Took me long enough. Where's Eggman?
They call it the Crimson Tower. It's Meteotech's signal tower. Command sent out here relay through facilities across the world to control the robots. In other words, you're looking at Meteotech's brain.
That think Eggman nabbed the arcs of the cosmos we've gotten and ran in there.
What's he after this time?
He's probably planning to use the stone's power to issue an order to all the world's robots from this tower. Sooner or later, he was planning to set the robots rampaging. That was probably his reason for forming Meteotech in the first place.
The Eggman Land project again, huh? He never gives up, does he? Well, looks like we gotta storm the place. Oh, huh? You think I was just sitting around here twiddling my thumbs? Sonic the Hedgehog? I follow you. Sorry to keep you waiting. First one to nab Eggman gets all of the arcs of the cosmos.
Huh?
And the title of fastest creature in the universe. Huh. Sounds like fun to me. Let's get started. Huh.
Hello everybody and welcome to part 5 of Zero Gravity.
All right, bring it on.
So we are now in the last stretch of the game. This is pretty much the last area for both storylines. And the Mediotech Crimson Tower isn't quite as obnoxiously hard as the Babylon Garden levels in the original Sonic Riders. Because in the original Sonic Riders, that level had a whole bunch of crazy cyber airships blowing out the track, and there weren't too many rails on the track, so it was really easy to fall off and fall to your death. And while you can certainly fall off here, I feel like the gravity is a lot easier to make sure your character goes back on track. It's a big part of this racetrack right now, actually. There's lots of horseshoe type racetracks where it's going to turn into a corner and you can't really get back to the other side simply by turning, so you're always constantly activating the gravity and activating the gravity and activating the gravity. So there's a lot of horseshoe gravity antics. But again, compared to Babylon Garden, it's just so much easier. There's rails everywhere, so you don't really fall off too much. The thing I haven't mentioned about what happens if you do fall into a pit. In the original Sonic Riders, you built up your character collecting rings so that you could level up your character. You know, you would be level 1 and then you'd go to level 3. And that made your top speed better, it made your attacks better, and all that jazz. And if you fell into a pit in the original Sonic Riders, that was gone. You had to start back from level 1. You had to start back from scratch. If you fall into a pit in Sonic Riders Zero Gravity, all of the gears that you unlocked, the ability to grind on rails and stuff, those stay. You could fall into a pit and you will be absolutely fine. Your abilities will still be there. Although, obviously, you fell into a pit and the other characters may overlap you. But still, that's just one little detail that I do enjoy. I guess when it comes to difficulty and stuff, the accessibility of Zero Gravity is definitely a lot better. You know, this is a lot easier of a game to get into than the first one did. The first one, you run out of air, you get off your board. The first one, you have to tilt the control stick in a certain way, hold the button down in order to make certain shortcuts and stuff. It could be really, really too much information for the player, and there's too much to take in all at once. And they might have died in story mode quite a bit because they're still getting used to everything and whatnot. Zero Gravity, you know, one button presses at the ramps. The gravity is pretty easy to figure out. They always give you these little prompts on screen like hold left and push square, push R1, push X. So, and you can turn those off in the menu as well, and I probably should have done that. But, you know, if you want those, they're there, and they help you get used to the mechanics of the game really easily and stuff. But the accessibility is better in Zero Gravity, and I've already gone over this many times, but I still think the first game is more fun to play. It's like the first game isn't as accessible. It takes a lot of getting used to. It takes a lot to get used to and learn, and it's not something you're just going to jump in and enjoy. But I think once you're in the core of Sonic Riders, once you really master the basics, I feel like the boosting and managing the air and doing tricks and stuff, that game is super fun. And turning's a lot better in that game because the board's a lot more stiff in this one because you have to use the gravity moves in order to make the sharp turns and stuff. It wasn't so much in the first game. So I felt like the board had better handling. The boost is always fun. Again, it's not to say that this game is bad. For a long time, I considered Sonic Riders Zero Gravity the far better game. I remember distinctly in my Sonic 3 and Knuckles playthrough, I was talking about all the future Sonic games that I was eventually going to do a playthrough of, but hadn't yet, because, you know...
No way I'm gonna lose!
Opinions and all that. People were like, what do you think of this game? What do you think of this game? And I was just in the middle of the classic era, so I figured I'd talk about it. But I remember Zero Gravity, I was like, Zero Gravity, I like it more than the first game. It's a lot easier to get into, it's not so complicated and bullshit. But then, in preparation for my Sonic Riders LP, I really started getting into it more, and I finally understood the basics, and I started, you know, practicing it and learning certain techniques and tricks that would make the races more easier on like GameFAQs and stuff. And all of a sudden, I found it more enjoyable to play. I found myself going back to the Grand Prix with Eggman and just practicing the levels and enjoying it. And I was like, wow, this game's a lot more fun than Zero Gravity. What the hell? I used to think Zero Gravity was the best one because it was the most accessible and it was like easier to manage. But again, when it's in its prime, I think the first game is better. And that's basically all I'm saying. But the Crimson Tower, we just played with Sonic. That was the last racetrack of the Heroes storyline. Because as I've said before, the game has Heroes and Babylon storylines, and I'm just editing them together to be one chronological, one big storyline and whatnot. So now we're in the Babylon Rogue side of the story, and this isn't actually their last race. Just like the first game, there is one more race for the Babylon Rogue storyline because it's the second storyline you unlock. This is the storyline that has the true ending, so don't worry, we'll be seeing that in the next part and whatnot. I like this level because you can always use the gravity to smash through the fans. You look at the fans and you think, oh, they might cut me up, but nope! No way, Jose. Just gravity through them, just gravity through that shit. Again, as final levels go, I don't think the AI is... I mean, you definitely have to keep on your toes, you definitely have to take advantage of those shortcuts or the AI is going to make short work of you. Well... Okay, I fell in a pit and I'm still winning the race, but still, if I wasn't taking those shortcuts, I would be screwed, damn it. Screwed, I say! So whether you'll like Sonic Riders Zero Gravity more than the first game, I don't know. I think it's more accessible, and accessibility is what matters. If you didn't like the first game, you might like this one because it's easier to get into. But then again, at its core, it's not as fun as the first. In my opinion. Because opinions are subjective, kids! They're opinions!
Now you see my true power! Yeah!
I think Jason Griffith actually toned down his Jet voice, but I don't care. I'm still going with the screechy, I'm Jet the Hawk! Ah! Because that's what it is to me, damn it. Alrighty, so that's that. That is the last racetrack. And I'll see you in part 6 when we see the true ending.
So this is the master unit.
System error detected. All commands cancelled.
My Eggman Land plans are in ruins after all these years.
Deal with it, Eggman. You're through, huh?
A trap! What have you done, Eggman?
Look! Huh. Babylon Garden!
The resonance from all 5 power units must have called it down.
Then the legends were right! Here. Hey! We haven't settled anything yet! Turning tail and running away, Sonic the Hedgehog! Running away? Who do you think I am? I'll be waiting. See you at the World Grand Prix!